Hi everybody, Bob Giglio here. Back at my shop. The winters are coming, so we're here, and we're back here. We're gonna do a video today on the Rockler drill press table. And I just want to show it to you, give you my first impressions, and then show you how I'm gonna install it onto my drill press. So here's the box that the drill press table and fence came in. It's a Rockler made fence and table, and it is model number 57484. And this is what the table looks like placed on my drill press right here. And my drill press is a benchtop model, as you can see. I built a nice cabinet for it so it can roll around, and I really like that. You saw that in one of my videos in the past when I built that cabinet. So now we're going to talk about the table itself. I like it so far. It is nice thick construction, all MDF, and it's nice banding around the edges. It has a couple of T-tracks in it and a couple of slots for the fence, which is right here. The fence is a nice fence. It has basically an anodized aluminum L bracket here for the fence, and then you have sliding faces like this that are adjustable with knobs, and then you have the stop here. And the nice feature about it has a nice vacuum port, so I don't have to always mess around with trying to clamp a vacuum hose near my drilling process. The other nice thing I like about the fence is that it has a nice sacrificial pad here that you can replace as it gets drilled through many times. And you can flip it over, but it's simply just another piece of MDF that I could make myself and change it out as often as I like. The only thing I'm not crazy about right now is that this cutout here on the side is supposed to be to allow more room for the crank handle on the table. And as you can see, it really doesn't do much for me on this model because my crank handle is so far in, and they have to be all the way out here for this to give any benefit at all, which I'm okay with. I think it's fine, and we're gonna now talk about how I'm going to install it onto this table. The instruction booklet that came with the table shows our process of aligning the Rockler table to the drill press table, and using these offset brackets as basically clamps to then use these threaded rods to secure the table to the drill press. So I decided that that's not what I wanted to do, only because I didn't want these brackets always attached to the bottom of the table, even when I don't have it on the drill press and I want to store it. So they would become a difficult thing to get around, because I usually put the table on the side of my drill press cabinet. So I didn't want that be occupied with all these brackets and this hardware as well. So I came up with an idea where instead of using these brackets, I'm going to use these Rockler extended length securing knobs, which I've used in other projects, like my router table projects. And I'm going to use them in combination with some threaded rods here. Here's some carriage bolts I'm going to cut down to basically make a stud out of. And I'm going to use those studs will then screw into these inserts here that I'm going to now drill and secure into the bottom of the table, the drill press table. So that's my idea. And the reason why I like that better is so when I remove the table from the drill press, it will be still a flat surface on the bottom, because the threaded inserts will be flush to the surface on the bottom, and it'll be easy to stow. And the other reason I like it is because these knobs here are going to be nice and long, so that if you look under the table, I can position them like this. I'm going to put 4 in. I'm going to probably only use 2 at a time, but I'm going to put 4 in, and it'll be very easy for me to access them. Now, unlike the instructions, which basically use those brackets to clamp to the edge of the table here, I'm going to use the slots in the table itself as the way to secure it to the drill press. So I felt that was a much stronger connection, and I have a lot more flexibility on being able to tighten it up and get some really good secured force for the clamp. So the other thing that is important right now that I want to do is basically I traced out all the slots and the edge of this table, the drill press table, and I'm going to build a stop that surrounds this on 3 sides, the front and the 2 sides, so that it will be easy for me to just to position it by pushing it in. The stops will align the table automatically, the Rockler table to the drill press table, and then this front stop will tell me where to stop it. And that's, I thought, the easiest way, guaranteed way to get it in the same position, get it very secure, all at the same time. So a couple of notes on positioning it and aligning the table to the drill press is, one, I had left about a 1/4 inch space between the drill press post and the table, so it will be flexible to move and won't have any issues there. And the other thing I did, as I said earlier, was I lined up the table to the center line of this of a bit. I haven't just chuck in a 1/4 inch bit to make sure that the table now is aligned both in this direction and as well as this direction. So now with that in place, I went ahead and traced out the mark on the underside of the table like we talked about. The other important thing to note is that before you do that, to make sure that the table of the drill press is in the correct position. With the table removed, the Rockler table removed, now I can show you how I located this table first. What I did was I chucked in a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. I selected that size because that's about the opening size of this center hole in the steel table. And I kept the plastic cap on so I don't dig up the cutting edges. So you can see now I position the table so it fits very nicely in the center. And since the bit with the plastic protector is about equal to the hole size, I can very clearly see any misalignment of the gaps there. That was one important thing. The other important thing, and that is basically the axis of the whole table assembly, but the table itself rotates this way as well, so it could be off angle. So to make sure that the table is square to the column, the drill press column in the drill press chuck, I went ahead and I used a pair of dividers, and I drew a mark that's the equal distance in the center here on each side of the steel table. I took that, then I used that mark, and I took a machinist square, very accurate machinist square, set exactly to 90 degrees. And I placed that on the table, over the mark I just drew. And I placed the mark on the column, which is, I'm trying to get the center of the column. And I know that the table angular position is correct if I flip this over and doing the same thing on the other side, the edge of the square ends up at the same exact point. So you can see I put a mark there. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a mark there. And I kept rotating the table face until they both lined up, until both sides of the square, as I flipped it over, gave me the same point on the column. So therefore, I know that that's the center point of the column, and also now the table is square to the axis of that column coming out toward the axis of the chuck, of the drilling assembly. So that's how I did that. So now I know that when I traced out the Rockler table, this was in the correct position. There's one other check. It's a good time to do it now since we are calibrating and making sure that this table set right, is to check the plumbness of the table. And to do that, I basically I chuck in a straight, solid a bar like this, rod, which happens to be a screwdriver I bought, and you rotate it to make sure that there's no out of roundness there, and you just put a square against it, and you make sure that it's square on all sides. And basically, there's another adjustment, the table tilt. That this whole table under here is a table tilt adjustment, and now I know I'm perfectly square to the axis of the drill bit. And now with the table set up, that's when you can go ahead and trace out the bottom of the Rockler table and know that you're exactly right. Here's the table now flipped over with the tracing on the bottom of the table. And just to do a final check, I've removed the actual steel drill press table. And I'm just going to place it over and make sure that everything lines up, my lines aren't askew or off in any way. And I just want to check one final time to make sure that the distance here, to make sure the table is really square now to this, because it can rotate. But I was pretty careful to lock it in place when I traced it out. And you see I have the same dimension on both sides along this edge. So now I know the steel table is now square to the Rockler table. So now with that done, the second thing to consider now is where these knobs go. And you get the most clamping force if you keep the knobs at the end. So now it's surrounded all by the steel of the plate, and I get the most clamping force. And so I'm gonna move these knobs. I'm gonna drill the holes of these inserts now close to the end of the slots, so that I'm gonna have the knobs almost all the way out to the ends. Gives me the most secure clamping, and I'm gonna do 4 inserts, but I may only use 2 knobs depending on the job I'm doing. And then if it's a really tough job, a lot of vibration, I'll put 4. But normally 2 will be fine. So I've marked here in the slots now where these center points are going to go. So they're going to basically, I will mark them 1/2 inch in on each end of the slot is where I'm going to put these inserts like this. So that's what we're going to do. That's the one step we're going to do. And then the guide, the template, we're going to do to steer the table onto, steer the Rockler table onto the steel table. I'm going to take a piece of this 1/4 inch plywood, furniture grade, cabinet grade, and what I did was I traced out here again the table perimeter, and I made sure that I didn't go into the curvature here, because remember, this is going to slide. This is a template that's going to slide, allow the table to slide into it. So I want one end open, and that way we'll just slide it in and then put the lock it in place with the knobs. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do the drilling, installing the inserts, and then we're going to take this to the bandsaw, cut this out, and file it up so it fits very closely the perimeter of the table, and we'll be good to go. So we're back at the drill press. We had all set up to go ahead to drill the inserts. So this particular insert is a 5/16 18 thread, and it's a flange type insert. So I went over to my trusty chart over here that shows me the size of drills, the hole to drill for that particular insert, and it's a flange type 5/16 18 drill 7/16 inch hole. So I went ahead and chucked that into my drill. I set the speed to about 1670 on the drill press, which is the right speed for that bit, into this material. And then I also set my depth gauge here for 3/4 inch penetration into the material, because that's the height of this insert. Let's go ahead and drill it. My drill press table wasn't big enough to drill all the holes into the router table. So you can see I drilled the first 2, as you saw, and now I'm going to finish the last 2 with my handy drill press jig that's portable, and I can drill holes anywhere with this, making sure that they're very square to the face of the material. it's time to install the threaded inserts, and I have an 8mm wrench here, Allen wrench, and we're going to use that to drive them in. I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on them, on the threads, just so that they don't twist out ever. An unlikely instant that they could. Okay, we're over at the bandsaw to cut out this outline of the table. Okay, that came out pretty good. I took the table back off the drill press, and then you can see the 4 threaded inserts now, and you can see this template I made. We're just gonna see it came up really good. I eased the edges here so that it could help find it, so when it's sliding on, it's going to be able to steer itself into the proper location, the alignment. So we're going to stand it up, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to put a piece of vinyl underneath this so that it tends to really have a non-friction surface, other than, you know, just the table on this shiny surface, which I think could lead it to shake and vibrate and come loose. So I'm going to put a piece of vinyl there to make it even more frictionless. So I found this piece of vinyl. Actually, I have some in stock. It's just a vinyl runner that I usually buy, you know, draw liner type of thing. It's kind of a heavier gauge vinyl for a floor mat. So what I did was I just cut it to roughly the size. Actually, I cut it to the size of this wooden cutout here. And so now I'm just positioning it in place. And the idea is to get this piece of vinyl sandwiched between this template and allow the table to sit on the vinyl. And this will give us that anti-skid or that anti-vibration kind of gasket absorbing mat. If there's any vibration on the table, it will be, you know, absorbed by this vinyl. The other thing I like the vinyl for is because when I put these threaded inserts in, they're flange inserts, so they do protrude above the surface of the table. And I wanted to make up that difference. I didn't want the table just to be sitting on these 4 threaded inserts and allowing it to not be fully seated and get a full contact surface. So I figured the vinyl will help me with that. So what I'm doing now is I'm just cutting out the openings for the holes for the bolts like this. And I don't have a leather punch the size of this 5/16, so I improvised. I got a T-nut that I use a bolt and through, and I position it over the opening where I want it to be, and then I'll just take it on the wood table and give it a couple of whacks, and the actual edge of the T-nut will cut right through the vinyl and give me a nice round hole. Like that. So I removed the vinyl pad because I want to locate this accurately now, and then I'll drill my holes and dry fit everything before I put the pad on and make sure it's in the right spot. So that's what I did. I marked the holes. I'm going to be just using some screws. I don't want to glue this because I do want to be able to change it in case I change my drill press. So I'm just going to use these 1-inch wood screws here and just do a perimeter of them into the table, and this will be the template that will set the template in place and lock it in place, and then I can take everything apart and put the vinyl piece back in. Go install it onto the drill press table, and you slide it on. The template finds the spot for you, and it stops exactly where it should. So that's the whole idea. I think we're pretty happy with the way it came out. Now we're going to finish with fixing those, making the bolts and the studs so we can screw them in and secure the table. To make the studs for the securing knobs, I'm going to cut down these two 4.5-inch long carriage bolts into 4 different pieces, one for each of the tightening knobs, the securing knobs. And I'm just going to cut them down with my hacksaw and clean them up with a file and a sander and make the studs. Here are the studs, all cut and cleaned up, smoothed out on the ends. I put a little tape into the ends so that they'll find the threads easy. So this one particular one, I accidentally hit it with the hacksaw a little bit on the slice this, put a dent in the thread. So I'm just going to run a die over it just to clean up that one area. And so I just lock these nuts together like this, and I'm going to spin this die over the thread, the area where I nicked the thread, and clean it up. With the studs done, I put a mark here of 1 inch into the end, from the end of the stud, and this tells me that how much I want to expose, have it exposed like this, because this is about the thickness. 1 inch, it will give me about 1/2 inch penetration into the table insert, and another 1/2 inch between the vinyl and the table steel itself. So I'm going to basically thread this in so I get the 1 inch protrusion here, and then I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite here once I get down there, because I don't want it to change as I use these. I want the 1 inch to always be continuous, and that will allow me to use these more like a male stud or a male knob that I can just screw into the bottom of the table with. Okay, so here's 2 of the knobs. We're going to use the securing knobs here, and as you can see, they thread in quite nicely here to the table. Inserts, I find them right away. They go in smoothly, and I get a nice access to the knob, and I can tighten them up. I'm going to put one in the back like this as well. And like I said, for when I'm doing jobs that require a lot of stress or vibration on the table, I'll put 4 of these knobs. I'll put one here and one here in addition, but for normal jobs I'm going to use 2. And now the table is nice and secure, easy to get to these, to remove and reinstall the table. So here it is, all finished, installed, and I just want to show you now how easy it is to remove and reinstall it. So I'm just going to disconnect the vacuum hose here. Okay, I'm going to reach under here and unscrew those 2 knobs, the securing knobs for the table, like we said. There's 1, and there's 2, and now the table just simply slides right out like this. And there is the template there on the bottom, the guide plate, and as you can see, now it's easy to reinstall. Just push it back. The guide plate aligns it correctly to the steel table. I'm going to put back the knobs. One in the front, one in the back. Just like that. One in the back. And that's all there is to it. Nice and secured. And thank you for watching.